doing takeout. And you can line that up with the presidential guidelines. And not all states, when the presidential guidelines came out, immediately followed the presidential guidelines. Not all states did. There are states that also may have gotten many more seeds from outside communities. That certainly is one of the issues that New York and New Jersey, Connecticut, and Rhode Island are facing. The virus came in from multiple places into those states. It was undetected early on, and they have a very logarithmic curve. What I'm saying is even one of those curves in one county, in one city, is one curve too many. So I am passionate about everyone following the guidelines because of the outlier curves. Maybe that was a better way of putting it. The outlier curves in specific counties is to make sure that doesn't happen anywhere else.
So would you feel better if every state did a stay-at-home order?
Well, I think most of the states have done that. I think one death from this is one death too many. I mean, I come out of epidemics and pandemics. We know what to do. I know we don't have a vaccine, and I know we don't have a therapeutic, but we know what can be done, and others are doing it, and most of the people in the United States are doing it. It's our communities. It's every American that has to make these changes, and I know they're really hard. And I know it's hard to remember. I mean, I have to say to myself every day, because I'm around very important people, to never touch anything. And I'm just paranoid now about touching things. I'm sure you all are too. I mean, we've gotten to the place where we don't go to your places on Pebble Beach. We go to the one that's open aired because, I mean, you're trying to protect your reporters. I mean, I understand that. We're all trying to protect each other, and we all have to adapt to this new reality that we're in right now. And I believe everybody is trying really hard, and I'm just asking them to try really, really hard for these next 28 days because they will make a tremendous difference. We see that evidence. And so it's like having a vaccine or a therapeutic because we know what works, and we're asking everybody to apply what works. And I know it takes amazing attention to detail because, the minute you forget or do something, you're like, oh my gosh, I should have never done that. And that's the level of attention it takes.
Covering our faces could help us do
so
that.
So I just want to say, look, many states have started low and slow, and then they stayed at a good level. Some really stayed at a great level. Louisiana is an example. It was low and slow, and they were looking great. I was watching it because, it's a kind of a place people go to with Mardi Gras, which sort of is an interesting point. Because after Mardi Gras, it was low, and then all of a sudden it went up very rapidly, and now it's one of our true hot spots, right? Certain areas of Michigan, Detroit, looked like it was doing pretty good, and then all of a sudden it went up. So you have that too. But I'll tell you what, we have states that have been really incredible in the fact that they have kept so low. They have not. You haven't seen the bump, and I hope you don't. And you have a couple that for a lot of different reasons, and that's not to blame anybody, but they are at a higher level, but very few. I think, Deborah, I may say, I think most people have actually followed the presidential, you can call them whatever you want. I would never use the word dictates, because if I used that word, I would be in such trouble. In fact, you'll put me in trouble just that I even mentioned the thought of it, okay? But we make a recommendation, and I think they've done a good job. Maybe they started a little later, but maybe they're also more difficult states. But we've done, I think, on average, really phenomenally. As a country, I think we've done phenomenally. Because when you looked at that graph the other day, I don't know if you saw it, I assume you saw it, everybody in the world saw it, but you look at all those lines on the bottom, one color after another, all different, representing different states, it's all crowded at the bottom. And then you had two that were up, but you had, I don't know, almost every one of them was down low, very low. So there were a lot of people listening. And I just did want to clear, because I don't need headlines tomorrow, neither does the country. Because I don't want this country working so hard and then have press that is, in this case, maybe misinterpret something. Because I might have, when I heard it, I was surprised at first too, but I understood what Deborah meant.
Mr.
But I think it's very important, because I think it's very important for you to be accurate. One other thing, just a quick thing. So what I found is when governors call me, I mean, I think in every case they've always been so nice. So nice. And I've seen them and heard them say, thank you very much. You have done a great job, a fantastic job in one case. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Then I'll see the governor, usually of the opposite party, in almost all cases, except maybe one. But in almost all cases, they're very generous, they're very nice, they thank me, everything's great, we're doing a great job. And then I'll see them on television, and it's like a different person. And I realize there are some people, because of politics, that if they say, we want 1,000 ventilators, and I'll say, no, Jim, I want to give you 5,000 ventilators. They'll say, thank you, you are the greatest president that's ever lived. And then I'll see them quoted in a paper or see them on a show, and they'll say, the president didn't come through for me. I'm very disappointed in the president. And we have a lot of that. They're very happy when they talk to me, then I see them. But there are some people, if they ask for 500 of something, and if I gave them 5,000, they will say, you'll say, how's the president doing? Well, we don't like the job. To my face, they're very nice. But then sometimes, I guess they assume I don't watch them or something, but I watch very closely. Yeah, please.
Mr. President, one especially vulnerable population is the prison population, and that's especially with Jared here. I wondered if you could address what the federal government is doing to protect
Well, it's
inmates.
vulnerable and that it's close together, really. I can't tell you about age, but a lot of young people in prison. Some states, I have not done that at all, but some states are letting people out of prison. Some people are getting out that are very serious criminals in some states, and I don't like that. I don't like it. But it's a city or state thing in certain cases, as you know. I think maybe Philadelphia comes to mind. So we'll see. Have to see what's going on, and we don't like it. The people don't like it, and we're looking into see if I have the right to stop it in some cases. Okay.
Mr. President, 6.6 million Americans filed for unemployment last week. We haven't heard you talk a lot today about what they're going through. So,
I think
what's your
they're
message to them? And
I think it's terrible. So look, 4 weeks ago, we had the greatest economy in the history of the world, the greatest in the world, greatest in the history of the world. We had the most jobs ever in the history of the United States, almost 160 million jobs, right? And then one day, I get a call from Deborah, who's fantastic, and from Dr. Fauci, and she said, we have a problem. I said, what's the problem? And they said, we may have to close it up. I said, close what up? They said, close up the country. I said, what's that all about? And we discussed today, and probably not since 1917, we came to that conclusion, and she is a fantastic person, a brilliant person, and this is what she knows. I said, has it ever been this bad? And I think I can represent that you said no, and part of it is the contagion. It's so contagious. It's like, if you sneeze, I probably get it. Who ever heard of a thing like that, okay? And this very talented reporter is bailing out. Okay, he's out of here. I don't blame you. But it's a very contagious thing, and probably the likes of which we've never seen in terms of that. But 1917, so that's over 100 years ago, but that was, it's been written about many, many times. That was a horrible, whether it was 75 or 100 million people, I've heard from 50 to 75, I've heard 75 to 100, but it was tens of millions of people. Now, we have the advantage of communication. This could have been just as bad. I mean, here we can read on the internet, we can see what to do, we can have these meetings, they can watch on television, which they do. A lot of people are watching. And they say, gee, social distancing. But in 1917, they didn't have that option. They didn't know what to do. They just noticed people were dying all over the place. Think of it, 75 to 100 million people died. A lot of people in this country died. To me, it's a great question. How come more people didn't die in this country? And they say it actually started in this country and went to Europe. We lost a lot of people, but relatively we lost very few compared to Europe. So this is a terrible thing that happened. And what's happening now, with people and jobs. So think of the position I'm in. We have built all together, everybody, not me, everybody, the greatest economy in history. And all of a sudden, people come in that we respect or we know. And here's the thing, they were right. Everybody questioned it for a while. Not everybody, but a good portion questioned it. They said, let's keep it open, let's ride it. If we did that, you saw the other graph. And whether it's true or almost true or maybe not true enough, the number was 2.2 million people would have died. 2.2 million people would have died in a short period of time. In fact, the graph could have been even shorter. I always notice that horrible one where it goes high, it actually comes down a little bit faster. It might have been over faster, and you would have lost 2.2 million people. So they come in and they say, we have to close up the country. And I say, you know what that does to the fabric of this country? To people that had great jobs, great family, no problems with money, their 401k, everything is perfect. Then all of a sudden they go from that to having no job in one day. They never even thought of it. And then you see 6 million people unemployed, unemployment numbers get released, and you see 6 million people. And it's an artificial closing. It's not like we have a massive recession or worse. It's artificial because we turned it off. Think of what we're doing. We're saying, don't go to work and we'll pay you. Everything's the opposite. It was always go to work and make a lot of money and do well, and the American dream. Because of a hidden enemy, we're saying, don't go to work, and we're going to pay you. Look at the money, $2 trillion, and we will probably do more. I think infrastructure would be a fantastic thing to do. You want to get the restaurants back, you give deductibility. You understand what that is? You give deductibility for businesses where they go and they use the restaurants. The restaurants will be bigger and better than they were before. You know, people don't know. A lot of restaurants closed when they ended deductibility. And then they started doing well, but they had fewer restaurants. But the boom of the restaurants is when they had deductibility, where corporations could use them. So, and entertainment. That was a great thing. But they closed it, and then they closed it again, and it wasn't the same. But you want to get them back, you do that. But infrastructure, we borrow our money now at zero. You know, if we were paying 5%, 4%, 3%, it's a different ballgame. We're borrowing. We can borrow long-term for zero, literally zero. You know that, because we're considered the safe investment all over the world. They want money in the United States. That's where they want the money. So I know better than anybody. I know what they're going through, and it's horrible. But you know what I want to do? I want to be able to get them back fast. When this is over, it's going to be a day we're going to celebrate, because everyone's going to go to work, and I think we're going to have boom times. I think it's going to be great. And we've learned a lot. We've learned about borders. We've learned about reliance on other countries. We've learned so much that I think we really have a chance to be bigger and better and stronger. And I think it's going to come back very quickly. But first, we have to defeat this enemy. So we will see you tomorrow. Thank you very much. Thank you.